maybe taking a bird's eye approach a little bit, because I think us as clinicians, because of we're so busy with the day to day,
Hmm.
patients and everything, we oftentimes don't get a chance to really dig our hands and feet into the research dirt, as we can say, and that ends up with people thinking that they know what the research says, in a more of a almost a dogmatic way, right? There's that study that will tell you that this is the way that you believe, and this is a clinical validity, and then you go that way, and you have these studies to basically validate your opinion, and then the other side has it as well. And I think hormones is definitely that area in medicine where there's just so much misinformation, confusion around, because of the history of the Women's Health Initiative, all the stuff that we've
Hmm.
had in terms of misinterpretation, um, opinions, all of those things, and that have bled into clinical practice. So I just want to take that moment to just appreciate how a clinician, even though he might be skilled in seeing patients, that doesn't mean they went back and dug into the data themselves. And so I really
Right.
appreciate and respect those people that can do that. Oftentimes in a journey myself to do that, so that when it comes to seeing patients, I'm not telling them, hey, this is what the literature says, and doing it in a secondhand way. I actually know the literature and can do that.
Right.
So, yeah, I was just wondering if you can speak more broadly to literature as a whole, and
Yeah.
perhaps in your experience in for so many years around hormone testing, what you've seen in terms of this dogmatic approach and all of the misinformation out there.
Yeah, I mean, it can come across as, from your perspective, a compliment to me and an issue with someone else. But the truth of the matter is, I don't have the time and wherewithal
Right.
to dig into the literature for everything that you need to be competent about either. Right?
Yeah.
It's not. I mean, it takes a community, but this community that we're in needs to have high standards because you've got, you described a study that says this and a study
Mhm.
that says not this. But
Right.
it gets even more basic than that in that in my industry of functional medicine, there are very well respected people that just say things and take positions that
Yeah.
you can't defend from the literature, and it becomes, I mean, dogma is a really good word
Yeah.
that we need to try to avoid, and that can hit on treatment efficacy, right?
Oh,
Of risks of things. I mean, there are certain things in our field where the risks associated with them have been sort of exaggerated. The WHI is sort of an opposite story of where conventional medicine has gone way too far in ascribing, contributing risk to a particular type of treatment. That
mhm.
as we step back from it and look at more data and all of that, the story is different. So dogma comes from sort of both sides, and so that's where we're really, dedicated to trying to go to these topics with open minds and open hands and say, okay, let's just wrap our arms around the literature as it relates to hormone treatment and then
Yeah.
also hormone monitoring. And they're complex topics, and they're ones that, we're just right now working on an HRT course. Like we've put
Mhm.
out a
That's
lot of
excellent.
material that's a little bit hodgepodge here and there, and then we've put out hormone education.
Right.
But the HRT education is something that we're still working on. And as our experts have dug into that, they've come to conclusions. They're like, oh, like we're preaching dogma ourselves, and we need to
Right.
have some self critiquing so that you can have a trusted source of saying,
Mhm.
okay, when we say these things are true, that you can trust it, and then the literature references there, as well as open discussion
Mhm.
about where there is still uncertainty about treatments that there are studies that have contradictory sort of implications, and to just keep digging and to continue being just as transparent as we can be about the things that we believe to be true. And on the hormone testing side of it, it's a good or bad, depending on how
Mhm.
you're describing it, example of
Right.
how dogma can be so deeply entrenched. I mean, there's
Mhm.
there's this topic that I've got my soapbox on, which is this whole idea of using hormone creams and gels. And okay, once
Right.
you use those, some of them have proven to be effective and some of them are not. But then the step further of like, how then do we monitor them, where
Right.
people have completely diametrically opposed positions, some which are fairly well defensible in the literature, and some which is just a bit of a house of cards. But it's been said for so long and with such confidence that it becomes really confusing to
Yeah.
where, like there's no shame in being confused on that topic, because the
Yeah.
voices and the messages are varied in ways it's quite astounding, really.